I'm going to start the video with a little confession before we get into the latest rumours around Lucas Paqueta moving to the Etihad, and that is, I'm not against selling him as much as I was a few days ago. When the rumours first come out and it was that Man City want Paqueta, Man City have bid for Paqueta, I thought no chance, absolutely no circumstances can we sell him. We've already lost Declan Rice. We cannot lose our two best players in the same transfer window. It would be suicidal. And with the Bournemouth game on the horizon as it was back then, there wasn't loads to look forward to. I was expecting poor football, the tactics not being the greatest, and that was delivered. But Lucas Paqueta gives me something to look forward to. While he's in the team, you've got a source of entertainment, you've got a chance, you've got a little bit of creativity in that midfield. And I wanted to see us build a midfield around Lucas Paqueta this season. And do you know what I still do? I still think that's what we should be aiming for. But this needs to be wrapped up quick, because if we are going to sell Lucas Paqueta, in theory, that's going to change how we go about the rest of the window. What West Ham do from now on, it has to largely depend on if Paqueta's still at the club or not, who we need to play alongside him in midfield, what kind of striker are we going to go for. Paqueta being in the team or not makes a big difference to that type of striker, in my opinion anyway, but maybe not. But with the latest transfer rumour, which is that Man City are going to offer 60 million plus Cole Palmer for Lucas Paqueta, I've almost found myself being okay with selling him. And it's not because I don't want Paqueta, of course I do. I'd be gutted to see him go after just one season as well. I don't think we've seen the best of him, but that's part of the reason. I'm not sure we will. But anyway, before we discuss the transfer rumour, welcome to Hammers Chat. If you're new around here, please do subscribe, drop a like on the video if you're enjoying it. It helps the channel out a little bit. But on Friday, David Moyes did his pre-match press conference ahead of Bournemouth, where he confirmed that West Ham had rejected a bid from Man City for Lucas Paqueta. Now this is important, and I quite like it. I like this honesty from David Moyes, but it's important because for the previous 48 hours there was a lot of rumours. Now granted, all the big hitting journalists like Jacob Steinberg, Fabrizio Romano, they were all involved in reporting that Paqueta was, at the Man City had bid for Paqueta, West Ham have rejected it. But as soon as Moyes said it, it sort of goes from rumour to fact, in my opinion anyway. Obviously, since that press conference, Kevin De Bruyne went off injured against Burnley, increasing how important bringing in a player like that is for Manchester City. Even if De Bruyne is available next weekend, even if he's not injured at all, it's just a precaution, it's a reminder. City had already bid for Paqueta before De Bruyne went off injured. Now with that, and it's the hamstring injury which forced him off last season as well, it's just a warning shot to Pep Guardiola. You're probably going to want to get someone in before the end of the window. And Lucas Paqueta ticks all the boxes for them. Often you'll see players getting linked to City, not just City, Liverpool, Man U, and you think, are they good enough? Can they really step up to that Champions League squad? It's not even Champions League. For City, it's champions full stop. Are they good enough to win the Premier League? Are they good enough to win the Champions League? And with 99% of players, you'll say no, they're not good enough. Paqueta's in that 1%, I think. He would absolutely thrive in that Man City team. He's got what it takes to play Pep Guardiola's style. He's got that hard work ethic about him, a bit like what Bernardo Silva has. To be fair, De Bruyne, Gundogan had it as well. That City team, while they've got the flair, they do still work hard as well. But he's got that composure. He's got that calmness on the ball. And I think he'd work well at City. So when I seen him linked, you could believe the rumour. I didn't smirk at it and think, it's a bit make-believe, no chance. I believe Paqueta being linked to Man City more than I did Declan Rice being linked to Man City. When Rice was linked there, I thought, I'm not sure they need him. They've got Rodri in there, they've got Calvin Phillips, they've got John Stones that can play in there. Is Rice good enough to replace Gundogan? Absolutely not. Rice wasn't good enough to do that role. Paqueta, he absolutely is. So I could believe the rumour. And when City come knocking, it's going to be hard to say no. I've got absolutely no issue with Paqueta wanting to go to Man City. When he joined West Ham, there was a lot of football journalists and stuff were a bit, not confused. Well, actually, there was a bit of confusion. They thought, hang on a minute, he's better than West Ham. He can go to a Champions League club. So it felt like West Ham was always a stepping stone for Paqueta, perhaps. And I don't mind that as long as we get it right, as long as we cash in when the time is right. I don't know if the time is right per se, but it looks like we're going to cash in. We're demanding 100 million for them. At least 90 million is what we want. So a 40 million pound profit on a player after one season, that's unheard of at West Ham. Now, ideally, you don't want to be seen as a selling club. But like I said, which club isn't a selling club? Man City have sold players this summer that they perhaps wouldn't want to. Every club has to sell players. It's about making the most of it and trying to hang on to the ones you want to keep, etc, etc. You get my point. So when it comes to selling Paqueta, I'd be gutted to see him go, but I think Rice will be a bigger loss to this West Ham team than what Paqueta will be. I think Rice will hurt David Moyes more than losing Paqueta will. That's my own opinion anyway. Now, part of the reason I'm inclined to accept the deal, I think the deal's a good one. The latest reports are that City are going to come back with 60 million plus Cole Palmer. We'll get onto that in a second. Because I don't think we've seen the best of Paqueta yet, and that's why I'd be a bit gutted. But I don't think we will. I think you will see the best of Lucas Paqueta at Manchester City. I don't think you'll see the best of him at West Ham. His fellow teammates aren't always on his wavelength. He tries things, and certain players, they're 2 yards behind the play. Paqueta's spotting a pass, or he's spotting a run that our player hasn't even seen himself, and he should be the one making one. Hopefully that makes sense. Paqueta just feels a little bit like the rest of them aren't quite on his wavelength. Some of them are when he's doing his 1-2s. He did them with Declan Rice, Fanal sometimes, Lanzini, Ben Rama at times. They're linking up well. But it's few and far between. It's not for 90 minutes either. So he will be a big loss, but I actually think it's easier for West Ham to replace Lucas Paqueta than it is Declan Rice. Now, that might come back to bite me on the arse, but I strongly believe it. I strongly believe Declan Rice is a bigger loss than what Paqueta would be. Now, as for the rumoured bid, the problem is that you've got to. I'm trying to separate what David Moyes is going to do, but it's difficult because David Moyes has spoken after the Bournemouth game about using Jared Bowen as a striker. He spoke about how he's going to use Bowen, about how everybody's talking about us getting a new striker, but actually we're going to have a look at Bowen up front because he scores goals. Now there's a bit of an issue here. He scores goals playing right wing. I mean, that's part of the problem, isn't it? That's like Jurgen Klopp saying, do you know what, we're not going to bother the striker, we're just going to put Salah up there because he scores goals. Yeah, he scores goals from the right wing. There's probably a reason they're left-footed playing on the right-hand side for a start. There's a lot of reasons Bowen scores goals from the right-hand side. Moving him up front doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work. And it's the whole converted winger thing again, isn't it? So when I heard Moyes say, I did a video about a year ago saying I wouldn't mind seeing it more often. Not as the first choice, just like the third choice striker. So with Scamacca, Antonio, if they're both unavailable, we play Bowen up front. Now at the time, Mubama would have been 16, 17 years old. But now, Bowen moving up front, this is why the Palmer thing becomes believable, because there's Jared Bowen's replacement. So instead of replacing Scamacca with a striker, we replace Scamacca with Cole Palmer, and we move Jared Bowen up front, and Palmer then replaces Jared Bowen on the wing. You could see David Moyes trying that. Now, I think Palmer's a fantastic player. While Man City have an incredible academy, and a lot of those players go on to do fantastic things at other clubs, they don't all do it at Manchester City, or players that they bring in at a young age, and then they keep them in the academy for a couple of years, then they have to sell them on. We're seeing them. We've got Trafford playing for Burnley against Manchester City. We've got Lavia at Southampton. You know the examples. There's loads of youngsters at Man City that they go on and they succeed elsewhere. Cole Palmer's succeeding at Man City. This is how good he is. While Carlos Borges was tipped as the best youngster in the academy at Man City, what he hadn't done is what Cole Palmer's done, which is go from the academy into the first team, just like Rico Lewis is. Those two stand out for me by a mile. Obviously Foden before then, but recently Palmer and Rico Lewis are the two that's gone from the academy into the first team, and they've stayed in the first team on merit. So we're buying a player that's good enough to be a squad player at Man City this season. And that sounds a little bit disrespectful, but that's the reality. That's what he is. He will come off the bench in quite a lot of games. He'll start a handful of games. That's Cole Palmer's role at Man City this season. And that, tell you what, is a tremendous achievement. To do that young at one of the best clubs, if not the best club in European football, that means you're a terrific talent. There's no doubt about it. So to have him at West Ham, yes please. My only worry is that they'd still insist on this buyback clause, and I don't like that. I understand it when we're trying to sign Carlos Borges. I understand why we have to accept that in there, because they're selling him to us. But when Cole Palmer's being used as part of the Paqueta deal to get 30 million, 40 million knocked off the price of Lucas Paqueta, it feels a bit like Man City are benefiting a little bit more than West Ham are here, perhaps. And that's why I wouldn't want to buy back one. No, we're having Palmer, we're having him. You can have Paqueta, we'll have that 60 million, we're going to have Palmer, but there's no buyback clause, it's a straight deal. Because I've seen a report the other day that Man City are more inclined to selling Cole Palmer than loan him out. Well, of course they are. If they loan Palmer out to, let's just say Palmer come to West Ham on loan for this season, would David Moyes play him? He might do. I'm sure he'll get a decent bit of minutes. But I tell you what, he'd probably have the same role at West Ham as that he had at Man City, which is starting a few games and coming off the bench in most games. He'd be better off just staying at the Etihad and playing for Man City than West Ham if he's on loan. If West Ham signed Cole Palmer, I think you'll find he might be starting every game pretty quickly as well. He's certainly good enough. He would then come in to the right wing and move Bowen up front, and that would be our new look front three with Ben Rama perhaps. But so I get why City would rather sell him, because then they'd have that buyback clause. They know, if he makes it in a couple of years, we'll just buy him back for 60 million, whatever the price is. So I get why City would prefer to sell him than loan him out. But I just don't want a buyback clause on this one. Like I said, I've defended it in the past, and if we were to go after another youngster from Man City to buy him, I would defend it then. But this is not the same thing. This is not like us trying to sign Carlos Borges. We call the shots here. Now the one thing is, I've seen reports that Paqueta wants to go to Man City. Do you know what? Of course he does. Why wouldn't he? But I've also been pleased by three things. First of all, when he did his tweet a couple of weeks ago saying it was fake news that he's unhappy, you've got his missus on social media on Friday. So after the bid came in and got rejected, his missus is on social media saying that they're happy at West Ham United. Then on Saturday, his attitude was fantastic. I thought he had a good game against Bournemouth. You could not tell. If that was a player with his head turned, couldn't tell watching him. He was committed to that on Saturday. So I've been very, very impressed by him. The way he's been handling this, the way that his family's handled it, I guess, as well. The way West Ham's handled it, which is this is a different attitude. In the past, we would have panicked. It would have been everywhere. Not for sale at any price. Well, that's just a lie, isn't it? Would we reject 300 million for Paqueta? No. So we agree. We will sell Paqueta. Now let's negotiate the price. But for us to come out and say he's 100 million, I like this attitude that we've come up with now. It's good. As for Palmer, I seen the report earlier that Steidten and Moyes both like him. Well, this is good. This is where the compromise is. And you can see, if I told you Moyes likes Cole Palmer, you could go, actually, yeah, I can see why. Hard working, left-footed, can play on the right, can play on the left as well. Capable of scoring goals, scored a fantastic goal in the Community Shield. Can see why Moyes likes him. Steidten, yeah, I can see why he likes him. Young player with a really high ceiling. Really, really high ceiling. Of course, Steiden's going to like him as well. It's ticking the profiles of both people here. So that's why, when I say I'm open to selling Lucas Paqueta, it's probably more that I would like to see sign Cole Palmer. I would love to see Cole Palmer at West Ham. The consequence is that we need to sell Lucas Paqueta. But I think we can replace him. I do. I feel more confident in replacing Lucas Paqueta than I am with Declan Rice. Obviously, I've got Alvarez in, James Ward-Prowse is joining. The Rice hole, if you like, has been filled. Whether you think it's good enough or not, West Ham have done the business there. We need a left back in. We need to fix the striker situation. But I think this is that. I think if Cole Palmer comes in, that's it fixed. Expect Jared Bowen up front. And then we've got to replace Paqueta. But I could name 3 players off the top of my head that I would love to see to come to West Ham to replace Lucas Paqueta. But we'll save that for another video. Well, we've got to create content, all right? Anyway, I'll be back tomorrow morning. To be truth be told, I'll be moaning about David Moyes. So if you don't want a negative video, don't tune in to tomorrow's video. But if you enjoyed this video, please do drop a like on it. Subscribe if you're new to Hammers Chat. Also, if you fancy getting a bit of Hammers Chat merch, go to our store, hammerschatstore.com. We're selling our Prague stuff. Got some new coasters in. Where is it? A nice Jared Bones on Fire one. Obviously, one t-shirt we've had to take off stock due to a printing error. But it shall be replaced. It will be back with the correct year on it. But if you fancy being nosy, links in the description. Until then, I'll see you tomorrow.